You are adrift in the deepest black. The hum of the scout ship is your only companion. Beyond the viewport, nothing. Just the cold, endless void and distant, uncaring stars. Then, a signal cuts through the silence. It is not a cry for help. It is not a warning. It is a single, perfect tone, a note that hangs in the emptiness of space. It repeats every 17 seconds, a cosmic metronome counting down to something unknown. Your ship's sensors fire at once. They trace the signal to its source. Near the orbit of Neptune, a shadow. Something has appeared from nowhere. It is vast and smooth and dark. It reflects no light. It absorbs all sensor scans. It is a perfect hole in the universe. Except for that single, repeating tone. The object just sits there. A silent giant in our own backyard. Command calls it the anomaly. You call it terrifying. The tone never changes. It has no message you can understand. It is just a sound in the void. But its presence screams a million questions. Who sent it? What does it want? And why now? After millennia of silence, this, a single, impossible object, broadcasting a single note. It hangs out there by the ice giants. It feels like a patient fisherman's lure. Earth holds its breath. Every telescope, every array, is pointed at the shadow. Humanity waits for the next note, and the one after that. For 3 weeks, the tone is all you hear. It fills your sleep. It echoes in the ship's quiet moments. It is the heartbeat of a new age. Or perhaps the tolling of a final bell. You are on the edge of known space. You are the first to see it, the first to truly feel its immense presence. It is a moment that will be etched in history. The day the silence was broken, not with a bang, but with a single, unending tone. Humanity did not wait long for an answer. We are not a patient species after all. The United Fleets were mobilized, our finest ships, our bravest crews. They gathered in Earth's orbit, a magnificent display of power and purpose. The UNS Vengeance led the charge. The UNS Unity and the UNS Horizon flanked it. These were vessels of peace, but built for war. They were the pride of our star science, the best we had to offer. You watched them depart from your lonely outpost, a river of steel and fire against the black. They were a greeting party on a grand scale, a message to whoever was listening. We are here, we are strong, and we are not afraid. Or so we wanted to believe. The fleet's journey was swift. They crossed the immense distance in weeks. They arrived to the same haunting sight, the vast, dark object, and the single, repeating tone. The fleet hailed the anomaly. They used every frequency, every language humanity had ever conceived. They sent greetings in math, in music, in light. The response was absolute silence. The object remained a hole in space. The single tone continued its rhythm. Unchanged, unbothered. It was like shouting at a mountain that appeared out of thin air. The finest minds in the fleet were stumped. They had prepared for anything. A hostile greeting, a complex first contact, anything but this profound indifference. The ships circled the object cautiously. They scanned it with every instrument. They bounced lasers off its surface that never returned. They sought a door, a window, a sign of life. They found nothing. It was a perfect enigma, a puzzle box without a key. The fleet commanders grew uneasy. Was this a test? A show of power so advanced it looked like nothing at all? Or was it simply a natural phenomenon? A thing so strange our science had no name for it. The tone played on, a constant, unnerving reminder. You are not alone, and you are not in control. Then, after 86 days of silence, it acted. The tone stopped. The sudden quiet was more startling than the sound itself. Every crewman on every ship held their breath. The void felt truly empty now. For a moment, you thought it had simply vanished. And then, the light came. A brilliant, intricate web of light bloomed from the object's surface. It was not a weapon. It was not a message in a language you knew. It was a map, a three-dimensional star chart, projected into the void. It dwarfed the entire greeting fleet. It was a breathtaking sight. Constellations you knew sat alongside star systems you did not. It was a map of our galaxy and beyond. But it was centered on one specific location, a place our charts showed as empty space, a swirling, vibrant cloud of color, a nebula that did not exist on any human map. The fleet's star science officers were frantic. They cross-referenced every database, every deep space survey. The nebula was not there. It was impossible. The projection was stable, a silent, glowing invitation. It showed a path, a clear route from our solar system to this unknown place. The fleet's mission had been to make contact. Now, they had a destination. The map was a puzzle and a promise. It spoke of wonders or perhaps dangers, things hidden from our view. The captains of the fleet conferred. The decision was unanimous. This was a message that could not be ignored. The glass nebula. That is what the linguists called it. The projection had a crystalline, fragile beauty. It shimmered with 1,000 colors. The name felt right. The map remained for a single day. It gave humanity time to record every detail. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. The dark object returned to its silent state, but it no longer broadcast its single tone. Its purpose was served. It had delivered its invitation. Now, it was humanity's turn to respond. The greeting fleet had its orders, but this new mission would require something more. The call went out across the system. They needed the best, the brightest, the bravest. The mission to the glass nebula was not for explorers. It was for ambassadors, for soldiers, for pioneers. It was a mission for someone who could face the unknown, someone who could make a choice for all of humanity. The weight of that responsibility was crushing. And that is when your name was called. You, a scout from a lonely outpost. You were chosen. You never learned why. Perhaps it was your report on the anomaly, that first raw data sent back to Earth. Perhaps it was something in your psychological profile, a capacity for calm in the face of the impossible. Or maybe it was just luck, a name drawn from a list of qualified candidates. It did not matter. The orders came. You were to board the UNS Endeavor, the most advanced ship ever constructed, a vessel built in secret for a day, just like this. The fate of worlds was now on your shoulders. It felt less like an honor and more like a sentence. Your family said their goodbyes. Their faces were a mix of pride and fear. They knew the risks. They knew you might not return. You tried to reassure them. You told them it was the greatest adventure. But in your heart, you felt the cold dread. You were traveling to a place that did not exist, a place shown to you by a silent, unknowable object. There were no guarantees, no promises of a safe return. Just a map and a mystery. A pretty good title for a holo novel, you thought. The journey on the Endeavor was a blur. You trained. You studied the alien map. You prepared for a dozen different scenarios. Hostile aliens, environmental dangers, psychological collapse. The crew was the best of the best, each one a master of their field. But you could see the same tension in their eyes, the same question that haunted your every waking moment. What will we find there? The ship moved faster than light. It bent space to its will. It crossed unimaginable distances. The stars outside your viewport became a river of light. And then, you arrived. The ship dropped out of warp. The river of light resolved back into stars. And there it was, before you. The glass nebula. The projections, the maps, they did it no justice. It was a living cloud of light and color. Swirls of amethyst and emerald. Ribbons of sapphire and gold. It glowed with an internal luminescence, a soft, welcoming light in the cold dark. Its beauty was breathtaking. It was a jewel box the size of a solar system. You stared in stunned silence. This was what the anomaly wanted you to see. Your ship, the mighty Endeavor, was a speck, a mote of dust before this cosmic cathedral. The sensors went wild. They reported impossible energy readings, exotic matter you had only read about in theory. The nebula was not just beautiful, it was powerful. It pulsed with a quiet energy, like a sleeping giant. The crew was silent. Every member stood at their post, or at a viewport, overwhelmed by the sheer scale and majesty of it all. You had a job to do, orders to follow. But for a moment, you were just a traveler, witnessing a wonder beyond all human imagination. You gave the order, "Take us in." Slowly. The Endeavor nudged forward. It broke the shimmering surface of the cloud. The ship's exterior cameras showed the view. You were flying through a dream. Wisps of glowing gas wrapped around the hull. Colors shifted and danced. It was like sailing on a sea of liquid light. There was no turbulence, no radiation, just a profound and peaceful calm. It was a stark contrast to the cold, sterile void you had left behind. Then the sensors picked up structures inside the nebula, solid forms hidden within the glowing gas. They were massive, geometrically perfect. The ship's computers struggled to render them. They seemed to defy the laws of physics. They were not planets. They were not star bases. They were something else, a new mystery. The nebula was not just a cloud. It was a construction, a place that had been built. The sense of wonder began to mix with a new feeling, a sense of deep and profound reverence. You were entering a sacred place. You guided the Endeavor deeper into the anomaly. The glowing gas thinned in places. It revealed the structures hidden within. You saw them clearly now, and your breath caught in your throat. They were trees, giant, crystalline trees. They stretched for thousands of kilometers. Their branches were intricate lattices of glass, like material. They pulsed with a soft, internal light. It was a forest made of crystal and starlight. The ship glided between the colossal trunks. You felt like an insect in a garden of gods. The scale was almost too much for the mind to process. The crystal trees were not uniform. Each one was unique. Some had branches that spiraled like galaxies. Others were sharp and angular, like frozen lightning. They chimed, not with a sound you could hear, but with a vibration, a resonance that hummed through the ship's hull. It was a music your ears could not detect, but your soul could feel it. A member of your science team spoke. Her voice was a whisper. The material, it's a silicon lattice, but the atoms are arranged in a way that should be impossible. It's perfect. Perfection. That was the word for it. There were no flaws, no signs of decay. The crystalline forest was ancient, yet pristine. It was a work of art on a galactic scale. You wondered who the artist could be. What kind of being could build such a place? The ship's navigation system followed a subtle current, an energy pathway that wound through the forest. It was a clear road, an invitation to go deeper. You followed it without question. It felt right. The forest seemed to welcome you. The chiming of the trees grew stronger. The unheard music swelled. It was a symphony of peace. A feeling of profound tranquility settled over the crew. The tension and fear had melted away, replaced by a childlike wonder. You had a strange thought. It felt like you were coming home. The path led you to an open clearing, a vast, spherical space at the heart of the forest. The crystal trees formed a dome around it. Their light illuminated the area. And in the center of this clearing, this colossal chamber, floated a sphere. It was massive, the size of a small moon. Its surface was a swirling, milky white. It seemed to be made of solidified light. It pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. A powerful presence waited within. You knew it instinctively. This was the heart of the nebula, the heart of the mystery. The UNS Endeavour came to a stop. It hovered before the great white sphere. Your ship felt small and insignificant, a piece of crude metal before a divine artifact. All was silent. The chiming of the trees had faded to a gentle hum. The crew watched the sphere. They waited. You waited. The air in the bridge was thick with anticipation. You had come this far, across the void, through the forest of glass, to this final chamber. This was the moment of truth. You gave the order to hail it, to send a message of peace, just as the greeting fleet had done before. But before your communications officer could act, the sphere responded. A section of its milky white surface turned transparent. It became a window into the heart of the sphere. You saw what was inside. Not machinery, not a control room, but a being made of pure, white light. It had a form, a vaguely humanoid shape, but it was fluid, shifting, a creature of energy. It was beautiful and terrifying. It raised a hand of light. And you heard a voice, not through the ship's comms, but inside your mind. The voice was ancient, calm. It resonated with a power that shook you to your core. I am the first. 1. The name echoed in your thoughts. The first one. The being of light regarded your ship. You felt its gaze pass over every part of the vessel. It felt like it was looking past the metal, past the machinery, and directly into you, into every member of your crew. It was a gaze that held no malice, only a deep, ancient curiosity, and perhaps a hint of sadness. The elder awakened. The being of light floated within its sphere. Its form coalesced, becoming more defined. It looked upon your vessel, the UNS Endeavour. It seemed to look right through the hull. Its mental voice was a chorus of ancient starlight. It filled your mind without effort. You have come far. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. We have watched your kind for a long time. We have seen your world turn, your people grow. You tried to respond, to form a thought coherent enough to be a greeting. But your mind was a jumble of awe and fear. A member of your crew fainted. The ship's doctor rushed to their side. The being of light seemed to notice. A wave of calm washed through the bridge. The voice spoke again, soothing, gentle. Do not be afraid. We mean you no harm. This place is a sanctuary. We are its guardians. The first one, as it called itself, was a sight to behold. A living star given form and consciousness. You seek answers. The voice continued. You saw our messenger, the silent one you call the anomaly. It was a simple test, a key to see if you were ready to look beyond your own star. You finally found your own mental voice. You projected a thought, a question. Ready for what? The being of light swirled. Its form pulsed with a brighter glow. Ready for the truth. A truth your star science has not yet discovered. A truth about the universe. It began its tale, a tale of starlight. The voice of the first one took you back. Across eons, across galaxies. It showed you images in your mind. Not pictures, but feelings. Concepts. The birth of stars. The slow dance of galaxies. It spoke of a time when the universe was young, filled with life. Countless worlds, countless species. They built wonders that dwarfed your understanding. They charted the cosmos. They believed they were masters of creation. It was a golden age, an age of infinite possibility. Then came the war. The first one did not show you battles. It showed you the aftermath. It showed you empty galaxies, worlds stripped bare, stars snuffed out like candles. The mental images were not of violence, but of absence. A profound and terrifying emptiness. A shadow fell upon the cosmos. The voice explained. A darkness that came from between the galaxies. A hunger that could not be sated. The first one spoke of a terrible darkness. An enemy that did not build. It only consumed. It did not communicate. It only destroyed. The species of the Golden Age fought back. They unleashed energies that could shatter suns. They built weapons that could warp space and time. But it was not enough. The darkness was relentless. It was patient. It was inevitable. It was a force of nature, a cosmic plague. The voice of the first one was filled with an ancient sorrow. We fought for 1,000,000 years. We saw our allies fall. Our creations turned to dust. We watched as galaxy after galaxy went dark. We learned a terrible lesson. You cannot fight a storm. You can only seek shelter. The story was overwhelming. A history of the universe you never knew existed. A history of loss on an unimaginable scale. You felt the weight of those 1,000,000 years of war. The sorrow of 1,000 extinct civilizations. It was a burden almost too great to bear. The first one then named its ancient foe. It gave you the name for the all-consuming darkness. They are the swarm of worlds. The name itself felt dangerous. It conjured images of countless bodies, a tide of unending destruction. They are not one species. They are a legion, a collective intelligence that travels on manufactured worlds. They move through the void, a plague of locusts devouring everything in their path. You saw a mental image, a fleet of planets, dark and menacing, moving in perfect formation, blotting out the stars. The first one described their methods. The swarm would arrive in a galaxy. They would begin at the outer rim. They would dismantle stars for fuel. They would grind planets into raw material. They would assimilate any technology they found. They would erase all life, system by system, star by star, until the entire galaxy was nothing but dust and echoes. Then they would move on, leaving behind a graveyard of cosmic proportions. They leave nothing but dust behind. The voice was grim. No ruins, no records, no survivors. They erase history itself, as if the civilizations they destroyed never existed at all. This was a foe beyond your comprehension. Humanity had fought wars. It had known cruelty and destruction. But this was different. This was not conquest. This was extermination on a cosmic scale, a force that sought to return the universe to a state of cold, sterile emptiness. A chill ran through you, a fear deeper than any you had ever known. We could not defeat them. The first one admitted. Our power was great. But they are endless. For every world ship we destroyed, 2 more would take its place. They are the universe's great filter, the final test for all life. You understood now. The silence of the cosmos. The reason humanity had never found another intelligent species. Perhaps they had all been consumed, harvested by the swarm of worlds. The thought was staggering. Humanity was not alone because space was empty. It was alone because space had been cleared. The first one then explained the purpose of this place, the purpose of the glass nebula. When the war was lost, we chose a different path. We did not run. We hid. We gathered the last survivors of 100 species, the last echoes of the Golden Age. We built a final sanctuary, a place where the swarm could not find us. The crystalline forest outside your ship was more than just beautiful. It was a fortress. This nebula is our last hidden harbor, the voice of the first one, filled with a fragile hope. The crystal trees are not just art. They are a cloaking device. They mask our energy signature. They hide us from the eyes of the swarm. For thousands of years, we have been safe here. We have preserved what little is left of the great civilizations. We are a library of lost worlds, a museum of a time before the darkness. You looked out the viewport, at the shimmering, impossible trees. They were not just a shield. They were a living monument, a testament to those who had been lost, a promise that they would not be forgotten. The unheard music of the forest took on a new meaning. It was not a song of peace. It was a hymn for the dead, a lament for a lost universe. Our glass walls hide them from the swarm. The first one continued. But our sanctuary is failing. The crystals are old. Their energy is fading. We do not have the resources to repair them. Soon, our light will be visible in the darkness. Soon, the swarm will see us, and they will come. The beautiful, peaceful nebula was a ticking clock, a gilded cage that was about to break. The final sanctuary was about to become the final battlefield, and its guardians were running out of time. Then came the moment that changed everything. The reason you were brought here. The first one looked at you. Its gaze of light felt heavy, full of a desperate weight. We are few, the survivors of 1,000 worlds, but our numbers are small. We are scholars, not soldiers. We have forgotten how to fight. Our power is in knowledge, not in war. The ancient being, this creature of light and power, was helpless. The voice came into your mind. It was no longer a grand cosmic narrator. It was a plea. We need your help. 3 simple words. But they landed with the force of a supernova. Humanity, a young, boisterous species from a quiet corner of the galaxy, being asked to help a coalition of ancient beings, beings who had fought a galactic war for 1,000,000 years. The idea was absurd. It was like a single ant being asked to help a lion. The first one asks for your aid. The thought echoed in your own mind, a silent confirmation of the unbelievable request. We have watched you. Your species is different. You are divided. You are chaotic. You fight amongst yourselves. But you are also resilient. You are survivors. You do not give up. You have a fire that the old civilizations lost. It was a strange compliment, a backhanded praise for our troubled history. Our chaos was our strength. We cannot fight this enemy alone. The plea became more urgent. Our time is running out. The swarm is closer than you can imagine. They are already at the edge of your galaxy. They are tasting the stars at its rim. Soon they will reach your worlds, your Earth. Your home will be consumed just as ours were. The threat was no longer distant and abstract. It was immediate. It was personal. The swarm was not just a threat to the nebula. It was a threat to humanity. The first one then laid out its proposal. It was not asking for your ships to fight for them. Not yet. It was a request for something far more important. You must carry their message back. The thought was a direct order, a mission. You must be our messenger, our ambassador. Go back to your people. Tell them what you have seen. Show them the truth of the universe. Show them the darkness that is coming. A new alliance had to be forged. An alliance between the old and the new. Between the last survivors of the Golden Age and the fiery, unpredictable species called humanity. Humanity must choose to stand with them. The choice was stark. Hide and be devoured alone, or stand together and face the storm with a chance of survival. The burden of this message was immense. You were to be the prophet of a new age, the bearer of terrible news and a single, desperate hope. Take this. The first one extended a hand of light. A small, glowing orb floated from its palm. It passed through the hull of your ship as if it were not there. It hovered in the center of the bridge. It pulsed with a soft, white light. This is a memory, a record of all I have told you. The history of the war, the truth of the swarm. It will show your people what is at stake. It will prove you are telling the truth. It was the ultimate proof. A message in a bottle from a dying civilization. Then, an alarm blared through the ship. A violent, jarring sound that shattered the calm. On the main view screen, a section of the nebula flickered. The beautiful colors distorted. A single crystalline tree shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The sanctuary had been breached. The voice of the first one was no longer calm. It was a cry of pure terror. They are here. They have found us. The battle for the light had begun. Through the new gap in the nebula's wall, you could see it. A dark shape against the stars. A planet-sized vessel. Its surface was a chaotic mess of metal and rock. It looked like a world that had been turned inside out. It was a swarm ship. The scout had arrived. The final defense has now begun. The remaining crystal trees around the breach glowed brighter. They fired beams of concentrated light at the enemy vessel. The ancient defenses were active. The swarm ship ignored the light beams. It fired a weapon of its own, a beam of pure gravity. It warped space itself. Another group of crystal trees buckled, then shattered. The breach widened. The enemy was tearing its way into the sanctuary. The voice of the first one was a desperate scream in your mind. Leave, now! You must deliver the message. That is all that matters. Your ship, the Endeavor, was a single vessel, a non-combatant. You were no match for a swarm world ship. Your pilot looked at you, awaiting orders. Your mind raced. Flee, as you were told, or stay and fight? What could one ship do? Your heart hammered in your chest. You looked at the glowing orb, the memory of the first one. You looked at the view screen, at the impossible battle unfolding, the last sanctuary fighting against the endless dark. Your duty was clear. The message was everything. Get us out of here. You commanded. Maximum speed. The UNS Endeavor turned. It sped away from the central chamber. It raced back through the crystalline forest. Behind you, you could hear the mental screams of the first one as the battle raged. You saw more swarm ships arriving. A fleet of them, pouring through the ever-widening gap in the nebula's wall. The sanctuary was doomed. You had to get away. You had to warn humanity. That was your mission. That was your only purpose now. Your ship broke through the outer layer of the nebula. You were back in the blackness of normal space. You looked back one last time. The glass nebula was no longer a place of peace. It was a cauldron of fire and light, a war zone. The beautiful colors were now flashes of weapons fire. The unheard music was now a symphony of destruction. You had failed to be their savior. but you could still be their messenger. The journey back was a tense, silent affair. The crew worked with grim efficiency. The glowing orb from the first one sat in the center of the bridge, a constant reminder of your promise. You transmitted the data ahead. You sent the memories, the history, the warning. Earth received it. The United Fleets received it. There was shock, disbelief. Then, acceptance. The evidence was undeniable. The threat was real. Humanity's final choice was upon them. By the time your ship reached the solar system, the fleets were ready. They were not just the greeting fleet from before. Every ship that could fly, every weapon that could fire, was being prepared. Humanity, for the first time in its history, was truly united. United against a common foe, a foe that threatened to extinguish their very existence. The choice had been made. We would not hide. We would not run. We would fight. You stood on the bridge of the Endeavor as it joined the new Grand Fleet. It was a sight that filled you with a terrifying pride. Thousands of ships, from tiny fighters to massive carriers, all of them painted with the same emblem, a symbol of a united Earth. They were heading back to the Glass Nebula, not as explorers, but as soldiers, as allies. You were going back to the battle you had fled. Your fleet holds the line with them. When you arrive, the battle is still raging. The defenders of the nebula have held out. Barely. The first one is still alive. Its light is dimmed, but not extinguished. The crystal forest is shattered, but it is not broken. They held the line. They waited for you. And you have come. The human fleet charges into the fray. Your lasers and missiles join the beams of light from the crystal trees. You are the beacon against the dark. Your small ship, the Endeavor, is at the heart of the fleet. You are the ambassador, the one who forged this impossible alliance. The first, one's voice enters your mind one last time. It is weak, but filled with a renewed strength. You came, the fire of your people. It burns so brightly. Humanity and the last of the ancients, side by side. A final, desperate stand against the swarm of worlds. The battle for the fate of the galaxy has just begun, and you are at its center.